Good morning, friends. Today is Wednesday, March 25th, 2020. Today we will be reading a book about maple syrup, and it's Curious George Makes Maple Syrup. George loved mornings in the country. Sunday was his favorite morning of all because Sunday was pancake day. Today, the man with the yellow hat was teaching George how to make pancakes. When they start to get bubbly, it means they're ready to flip, his friend said. George flipped each pancake as it was ready. 1, 2, 3. George started pouring a lot of syrup on his pancakes. "Oh, go easy on that maple syrup, George. It doesn't grow on trees," the man said. Then he thought for a moment and said, "Well, in a way, it does." George was confused. He imagined picking bottles of syrup off the trees like apples. The man explained that the syrup doesn't actually grow on the trees. It comes from inside the trees. All you have to do is tap them. George had poured all of the syrup on his pancakes. Now there was no syrup left for his friend. But George had an idea. There were plenty of trees outside. All he had to do was tap them. George put on his coat and went outside. There were many trees on the Renkinsons' farm. He tapped on each tree like he was knocking on a door. George's friends, Allie and Mr. Renkins, came over to see what he was doing. "George, why are you knocking on that tree?" asked Allie. George showed them the syrup bottle. "Are you looking for syrup?" Mr. Renkins asked. "First, you've got to tap the trees to get its sap," Mr. Renkins explained. "That doesn't mean knock on it. You have to hammer the tap into the tree. Then you can collect the sap in a bucket like this," Mr. Renkins demonstrated. Mr. Renkins had an extra bucket to spare, so George and Allie could collect their own sap. George was excited. He could cover mountains of pancakes with a whole bucket of maple syrup. Mr. Renkins explained that to find a maple tree, you had to know the characteristics to look for. Maple trees have gray bark with deep ridges, and they grow their own special leaves. The leaves have 5 points, just like on the bottle of syrup. After Mr. Renkins showed them how to tap a maple tree, George and Allie were ready to tap one on their own. But finding the right tree wasn't easy. After spotting one that had gray bark with deep ridges and 5 pointed leaves, they knew they had found the right kind of tree. The sap dripped and dripped. George and Allie waited, and they waited. They must have tapped the slowest tree on the farm. Finally, George's bucket was full. Now they just needed to make more pancakes. We know they're not done yet. That's not maple syrup. It's just the sap. Back at the house, Allie and George surprised their friend with a pancake breakfast and their new syrup. But when the man poured the syrup on his pancakes, it didn't taste like maple syrup at all. What had gone wrong? They went back to Mr. Renkins for answers. He explained that sap becomes syrup only after it's boiled down. Luckily, he could help them boil the sap into syrup at the sugar shack. "It takes a while to boil, but if you leave it too long, it can bubble over and burn," Mr. Renkins warned. "I'm going to go check on the cows. You two keep an eye on the sap." George and Allie watched the sap and waited for it to boil. Mr. Renkins was right. It was taking a very long time, and they were getting tired. Suddenly, the sap started to boil over. George tried to fan the sap with pancakes to cool it down, but the butter on the pancakes slipped into the pan. The butter smoothed out the sap and kept it from boiling over. Mr. Rankins returned and said that the butter had stopped the sap from burning. Now it had finally turned into syrup. With the help of Allie and Mr. Rankins, George had made a bottle of his very own maple syrup. The next Sunday, George made pancakes for his friend and poured his homemade maple syrup on them. "Thanks, George," said the man. "This is the best Sunday morning syrup I've ever had." All right, friends. Today I'm going to have you do a math activity. I'm going to have you take a piece of paper, and I'm going to use this really big one today to show you. And I want you to draw some boxes. And I'm going to use my marker. You're just going to use a regular sized piece of paper. And you're going to draw some square boxes. I would say probably 10 boxes. And after you get down to the bottom of your page, you go up to the middle of your page and make another box and make them going down. And you would keep going all the way down your page. Now the game you're going to play is called +1. So in these boxes, you are going to write some random numbers from 1 to 100. So I might ask my mom for the first number. Maybe my mom says 57. So I'm going to write the number 57 in the first box. Then I would ask someone else to give me a new number. Maybe my dog says 23. So I'd write the number 23. You're going to fill all 10 of your boxes with random numbers. If you don't have anybody that you can ask for a number, you can just pick them yourself and put different numbers in all of the boxes. Now your job is to +1, to add 1 to each of those numbers. So I'm going to remember what this little symbol is. That means to add. That's the plus sign. And we're going to add 1 to each of these numbers. 57 plus 1. Now this symbol, remember, is called the equal sign. Whatever's on this side of the equation will be the same as this side. So what is 57 plus 1 more? Yes, 58. So you would write 58 and then circle it. So you wrote the number equation 57 plus 1 equals 58. Then you would do your next number, 23, and here's the symbol for adding, the plus sign, plus 1, and here is the equal sign. Whatever on this side of the equation is the same as this side. 23 plus 1 more, 24. And I really want you to practice making those numbers correctly. If you need someone to write a number line for you so that you can see how numbers are made correctly, some of you know that that's something you're working on. That's what I want you to do. When you are finished your math job today and you have done at least 10, you can do more than 10. If you can fit more than 10 on your paper or use the back side of your paper, if you can do more than 10, that is fabulous and just challenging your brain. Then you are going to do 1 page from your literacy packet, which I'm not sure if you've started yet. You're going to do a guided daily reading lesson, and you will do 1 page of your writing today. If you want to write about tapping a maple tree, you can make an imaginary story and a creative story that you've made up. It will be a fiction story, right? And you can draw yourself tapping a tree and collecting the sap in the bucket, or of you boiling it down. Make it fun, and make sure you stretch out those words, use spaces in between. And I heard that lots of you are practicing using your lowercase letters and using an uppercase at the beginning. I am so proud of you. I know that's a hard thing to do. You can do it. All right, I'll see you guys again tomorrow, and I will be back with a new story.